The Inquisition, what a show, the Inquisition. Here we go, we have a mission to convert the Jews.
Hey, wrong podcast.
They greenlit the sequel without a story in mind. They just wanted to equal an unexpected gold mine. He said, oh no, as Heston said, I got to go. These are just some of the facts you ought to know as we go. Beneath the minute of the apes. Beneath the minute of the apes. Beneath the minute of the apes.
The only good human is a dead human.
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, the daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies 1 minute at a time. And we do promise eventually the Mel Brooks movies,
Yes.
but not today.
No.
Today is minute 45. It is Friday. We are raring and ready to go to break apart this minute that Richard's already promised us. Has a
Prominence?
lot of good juicy stuff. Did I say that wrong?
You said prominence.
Promised. You know,
Promised.
that's a little bit more of an esteemed promise.
Ah.
Promised.
Promised.
You promised us that it had a lot of juicy stuff in it.
I feel like it does.
Okay, well, here we go. Sean, tell us what happens in minute 45.
All right, we're starting minute 45 with an orangutan saying, "Our great army," and ends with Zero saying that Zaius has only one motive.
Let's listen to this prominancing minute.
Our great army and its supreme commander, on the eve of a holy war, undertaken for your sake, and grant, in the name of your prophet, our great lawgiver, that we, your chosen servants, created and born in your divine image, may aspire the more perfectly to that spiritual godliness and bodily beauty which you, in your infinite mercy, have thought fit to deny to our brutish enemies.
So be it.
There they go. Dr. Sayers trotting along beside them.
Don't be too hard on the old boy, Zero. His motives are honest.
He has only one motive.
It's so nice to have dialogue again. As of minute 45, you got 3 living humans, 4 dead humans, 1 dead ape, a shrewdness of apes, and a gaggle of humans. So am I the only one that thinks that whenever you see Zaius, he's sitting there saying, "I am tired of this bullshit."
Yeah.
I need out of my contract.
I mean, I've attended enough Sunday school morning church that I wanted to fast forward through this minute.
So what iteration of the scripts in preparation for this film eradicated Zaius' power and drive
Put
that they
Ursus up there.
then took away from him in subsequent rewrites and didn't explain to us that now he's by and large ineffective.
Yeah,
in
because
these films.
he was the leader in the last movie, and now this Ursus has come over and
we've
pushed
seen
him down.
nothing to take it away from him
Yeah.
that really said,
This is
Now,
what happened.
You know,
he's changed his demeanor, but nothing has said you're no longer in power.
So, well, I did not get the sense from this scene that he is no longer in power of his hierarchy, but that it's been usurped by the military.
Yeah, but why
I no longer got the sense that he was no longer in power of what he's in control of, just not society itself.
But why wouldn't
But
Zaius
why-
be the
maybe
one
was he
leading
not-
this speech?
was
right
he
now?
not in
he-
charge of society before? Maybe he wasn't.
Well, I mean, he was leading the trial against Heston. He
If
was.
I'm
And
Maurice-
but he may not have been the military leader. I mean,
if I'm
we're-
Maurice Evans and I take this film and suddenly all I do in this entire movie is sit around putting my head in my palm, I'm pissed off. This isn't acting anymore. He's not doing anything. You have neutered this character. That was a great foible to all the characters in the first film, and it's gone.
So we go through this speech from this minister that's at the front, right? Our great army.
The Baptist preacher.
Its
Yeah.
supreme commander suggesting Ursus, right? The eve of the holy war undertaken for your sake. We then get a pull back to kind of reveal the room.
where we have some bad
And grant
makeup.
Yeah, we do.
We have
in
some
the
bad
name of your
costumes.
prophet, our lawgiver. And we're really getting more of the sense of the lawgiver. I mean, we had him mentioned in the prophecy before, but now we're actually getting this as part of the prominent
And
society.
I like that.
We're seeing the idol behind him. It's now becoming obvious to the audience
Right.
that this is an important figure.
Right.
When we pull back, we see 16 guerrilla soldiers seated. We see 5 orangutans standing. we see 3 seated and a 4th one, of course, being Zeus, and his head is in his right hand. He's kind of bowed down as if he has given up, almost as if he doesn't even believe the speech. He's unaffected by this religious speech that normally he would be affected by.
As you were counting off those apes, all I could think is the whole Christmas song, "The First Day of Christmas."
First day of apes.
Yeah,
The first day of
seriously,
apes.
that's very well done.
Yeah. So, and he says, before, we, your chosen servants, created and born divine, may aspire more perfectly that spiritual godliness and boldly beauty which may in your infinite mercy have brought fit to deny our brutish enemies. We're definitely putting up a situation here of not just military.
That there's almost like a religious war.
That there's a religious war happening as well.
And that's cool. I kind of like this. And, when I said before the Baptist preacher, for those of you living in the South, that Southern Baptist kind of very fire and brimstone kind of.
Sweaty handshake, handkerchief, and
that's kind of what I got from it. And I'm sure that actor probably chew this up saying, "Ooh, I'm going to do that approach." And you're okay. I'm sorry. I'm crying your space, Sean.
We're playing footsies under the table.
I dig that. I dig that the religious rhetoric is taking over. But again, I question, why is Zeus not involved? Why is he so passive? Why is he so distraught? And by the time we get to the end of the scene, even Ursus is like, okay, thank you, done.
When he's so be it looks like he's rolling his eyes like, finally, can we get going?
Yeah.
There is a moment when they pull back and the minister's kind of finishing. You actually see everybody bow their head except Ursus.
Right.
Ursus kind of gently bows down briefly, then kind of picks it back up as if he realizes the speech is about him. And Zeus is technically not bowing his head because his head is in his hands, but everybody else is kind of bowing his head. I mean, maybe Zeus is seeing what's happening, what's being taken over by the military. It's controlling now religion as well.
I wonder if Ursus didn't bow his head because of that big bloody helmet on him, and he didn't want to fall off.
Will that make him black out? Does it make all the blood go his head when it happens?
Yeah. I mean, it was an interesting moment. Just to kind of cut back, we now have, apes conducting a holy war of sorts run by the military.
Crusade.
So the thing I find confusing, what I like in the moment is leading the troops to get ready to go to war, giving them religious
marching orders,
mumbo jumbo kind of things to bless their venture. However, the orangutans, why don't we have the moment with, if Zeus is looking uncomfortable with this, number one, why is an orangutan leading it then? There's some disconnect between, I'm sorry, I'm in both of you guys' ways. I'm just over here stretched out having a good old podcast, but it just seems that there's no thought of what side are the orangutans on, what side are the chimpanzees on, what side are the gorillas on. It's just very inconsistent in what is happening in this room.
Right, we've got the 3 species, which are now 3 classes, if you will, and we now have 2 of them in one room with the chimpanzees not involved, and the orangutans.
Sure, there's not a chimpanzee in this room, is there?
And then the orangutans are conducting some type of ceremony, a religious ceremony, right? Because he was the minister of science and religion, right?
Right.
And we have the soldiers also taking this, being a part of this prayer, as if they're being blessed before going to war.
Right.
The chimpanzees are on it. We do get kind of one of our first really, really good shots of the lawgiver statue as the minister is bowing down. We get kind of a really nice first tight look on him, and he just looks like an orangutan with a...
Well, I was going to ask that. Is that an orangutan? Is that a chimp?
I think that's an orangutan.
I always assumed it was orangutan, but then as I looked at it, I thought, well, they've never really said what it is.
But if you put the orange cloak over it, and you would have the same type of markings, that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
Because the chimpanzees do wear more of a chest type thing instead of the actually long placard kind of things.
Yeah, exactly. And then what was really kind of... I'm sorry. I just love Ursus. Like, so be it.
So be it. Roll my eyes. Let's go.
Yeah, kind of.
Let's get the killing going.
And then we get another interesting cut.
Humans ain't going to kill themselves.
It would have been nice if Ursus had a gun that he was cleaning them. Okay, let's go. Loading up my bullets. Yeah. I'm sorry. Your interesting cut, and I know where you're going. Go.
So then we get an interesting cut, and it's a familiar house, right? Where we have guerrilla soldiers marching past Zira and Cornelius' house. There is a purple flag, right? Because apes apparently only have orange and purple and green.
Yeah.
which
I didn't catch the flag, but that's a good catch.
Well, it's a purple flag. I like the fact
Do you have that shot pulled up?
Yeah, I do. And we catch the soldiers from the back, so we see them. We don't see them marching forward, which I thought was an interesting choice. We see them marching in, and it's by Cornelius and Zira's house, which makes me think that they're walking towards the city, not away from the city, but maybe they're just in the city. But if you think of the path which Cornelius and Zira traveled up earlier, and I know I made that remark that it looked like it was nothing but a military occupation. They were coming up screen left into their house, screen right into their house, and this is the guerrilla soldiers going screen left as if they're going into the city as opposed to out of the city. All of our shots with the military parades, they're always going screen right or leaving the city going left. So I don't know why the guerrillas appear to be going into the city.
Maybe they're going to have dinner first.
Maybe. But I will say this next little moment where we actually see Cornelius and Zira peering at them from the windows. Now, the soldiers all have backpacks. They all have rifles. They look very much like they're going to war. It almost looks kind of the rudimentary nature of this. It looks very old. It looks like something you'd see from the Civil War as opposed to.
Well, that's I like that. The Civil War thing. And especially with families watching from the house, evoking a Civil War thing again. What I found myself wishing for, we get shots of the parade by, and the camera's up enough where we can see into the window that we see the crowns of their heads looking out.
Right.
We then get close shots of them talking in those windows.
Yeah.
We get a reverse angle through the windows out, but we never see over their shoulders back into the crowd. And I get that that's another lighting setup that it's a little bit harder because you're going to have to light them so you also see both these things. But I wished that we would have seen that. I thought some of their dialogue would have been much more interesting over their shoulders as we see
the horses go by.
Yeah, see the ominous forest going by as they talked about it, and it loses a bit of the punch when we just see their faces.
But we don't know that the interior of their house is actually the exterior of the house for these stages, for these sets.
Yeah, but I think whenever you're seeing them go by and you see the exterior, and if I can see their faces, I can then shoot a reverse, and I can see a reverse over their shoulders. The only reason I'm saying, I think the staging of it would have been more interesting if I saw what they were talking about while they were talking.
I will say this next minute of this minute and the next minute are not in the script.
Oh.
This minute's not in there at all?
Talking about having Zaius trotting along with them and all that kind of stuff.
Nope. I only scanned like 4 or 5 pages ahead to see, but we jump to stuff I can't talk about yet.
So that makes me wonder, again, that on the set that they weren't confused about Zaius' role. And the reason I bring that up is that Zira mentions that she's talking about Zaius at the end as she says he only has one motive.
Well, she is still... Well,
But if you think about it, he's been Grandpa's Zaius up to this point where he's much more friendly to them. But suddenly that attitude is reverting back to what's the attitude in the first film.
There they go, Zaius trotting beside them. Cornelius, don't be hard on the old boy, Zira. His motives are honest. He has one motive.
So once again, now that we're being inconsistent on what she thinks about Zaius. Zaius was in her house earlier, and she was at least playing the game about Cornelius needs his fingernails clipped and doing the coy stuff. There's inconsistencies even to what she thinks of Zaius.
I will say this just because we don't. Sean doesn't know future minutes. We can't talk about future minutes. I'll whisper it to you afterwards, but
I look forward to that.
But if you think about this moment, maybe they needed to put this moment in there. And I can't talk about it.
No,
We'll talk about it next week.
Well, I mean, and this we're watching these, and there's definitely some stuff next week as well. But I mean, there's something specific about these two characters that I don't want to bring up.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think they may have needed to put in there. But I can't really talk about till the end of everything.
It's a shame that Hollywood at this time looked at sequels as a detriment instead of saying, "Wow, we could actually
expand upon this universe."
So we weren't recording an in-between of this. We were talking about different things, but one of Sean's favorite things, Babylon 5, came up. You look at how beautifully Babylon 5 took the idea that we're going to take a 5-year story arc, and we're going to tell a story, and when it's done, it's done. How wonderful would it have been if Planet of the Apes said, we have the ability to tell a beautifully arcing story. And if we start peppering and tell these things, and so what I kind of have an idea where you're going with what you're going to say.